So I tried Clair Obscur Expedition 33, and I am in love with it. A lot of people are. You probably heard this already, but if you have not heard enough yet about how good this game is, I'm going to break it down for you. This might be a little bit of a longer video than usual because I have a lot of notes about what this game does right, how refreshing it is, how fun it is, how it kind of has something for everybody. But so, enough preamble, let's just jump right in. I'm looking at my notes here. Well, you might have already heard, it's from a French studio that was not really well known before this, sold, millions and millions of copies right out of the gate. It is definitely soaked in French culture, which is really interesting. I think that's great. Not that I'm a huge Francophile or anything, but I like when a game has a very, very unique style, and it kind of reminds me of Black Myth Wukong, where Black Myth Wukong was 1,000%, a Chinese game. It was effused with the culture of the team that made it, and I would definitely say that's true for Expedition 33. Probably start calling it E33, moving on, just because it is a long title. My friend pitched it to me as the new Final Fantasy, and I definitely see that. It's so evocative, and we'll get into this later as well. It's definitely intentionally referential as well. It really evokes, I'm going to rattle off a bunch of games now, and you probably won't even believe me, but I honestly get flavor from Final Fantasy, BioShock, both of those in terms of it's so strange and so alternate universe. It's really just kind of full of magic and things that, it really kind of has a magic realism vibe throughout. The story is really great so far. It's emotional. It has stakes. You believe that the characters care about each other. You are made to understand why they are motivated and what they're up to doing. The plot is really awesome. I'm going to name another game. It reminds me of Metal Gear Solid, honestly. And if you've gotten to the point in E33 with the first beach scene, you'll know what I mean when that implied villain, that baddie comes in. That is such Metal Gear vibes to me, where it's just, there's strange magic or strange technology we don't even know yet. But it's people who are otherwise in a grounded, normal situation, everything is suddenly turned on its head, and you're in a situation where you don't know anything about what might happen next. So one thing that I was nervous about that I wouldn't like is it is turn-based. It's a turn-based RPG. It's old school. It has an overworld. It has these really gorgeous sub-areas from the overworld. Really, really, really beautiful map design and things like that. Everything visually about this is incredible. I would honestly say this is probably going to win Game of the Year already, even though 2025 is not that old yet. I would be surprised if another game comes out in 2025 that just impresses on every level like this does. It's a traditional turn-based RPG, and I sometimes get tired of that. It's not always that fun. I like combat where I feel kind of engaged, where I'm sitting with my controller and I feel like I'm in the combat, but it actually somehow does do that, and I've never seen that in a turn-based RPG. The way that it pulls it off is that the character building, every single character has their own skills, their own skill tree, all this stuff that makes them really customizable. And then there is an action point system where the more tuned in, they're like quick time events, or alternatively rhythm games in the turn-based combat, where if you are tuned in, if you are engaged, you can not only avoid damage, but you can collect action points, you can deal counter damage. So even though it's turn-based, it's you have all the time in the world to use your very customized characters and make a plan. And that's nice. That's what people like about turn-based games, is when your plan, the very carefully laid plan that you're making, when that pays off, that's very satisfying. But then what people don't like is just waiting for the enemy to kind of wail on you. But in this game, instead, it is still very engaging, because when the enemy is trying to wail on you, you can totally turn it around and make that another great move for your team instead. Again, with rhythm events. Another game I'm going to compare it to, it almost has an Elden Ring or a Dark Souls vibe, where you're very carefully watching the enemy, and they telegraph, they let you know when they're about to do something. And so once you get the feeling for their rhythm, at first it's very challenging, but then by the time you get the hang of it, it's you're toying with them, because you are seeing the little tells that they give and then turning that against them. So really, really fun combat, really deep. This is a warning I was going to give. Don't look at my footage and think that I'm actually even playing correctly, because I've played for 2 or 3 hours now. And I feel like I'm finally beginning to understand all the mechanics. There's all these ways you can customize, all these ways you can choose how to fight. There's an aiming system. So if you see a weak spot or something that you want to trigger specifically, you can aim and shoot at that, and that costs action points. So your character can't do as much, but you might specifically instruct them to do precisely something useful. And that's really cool. So even though it's turn-based, it's really, really engaging combat. Oh, another thing. Again, I'm going to compare this to a million different pieces of media, but the stakes kind of almost remind me of Berserk, of the manga and limited anime, Berserk. And if you're familiar with that, you know what that means too, where it's like they will introduce all these cool, interesting characters, and you're like, wow, these guys, like the Band of the Hawk in Berserk, these guys are so cool, and their friendship is so strong that like nothing can bring them down. And then the game will hit you with a scene where it's like, nope, everybody dies. All the, or Game of Thrones is another one, at least in the early seasons, that had that kind of vibe where it's like, no one has plot armor, so don't get attached to anyone. So I really like that too. The storytelling is really great. I'm not even that far yet, but I'm already like very invested in these characters and what they're doing. I just found in my notes, I realized the only RPG, turn-based RPG that I could even compare this to in terms of like where you're engaged as the enemy is attacking is actually Paper Mario, because Paper Mario had that like kind of thing where you could like hit buttons, you could like do timed events to make combat even more in your favor than it would be if you were just less engaged. So that's just a funny thing. I'm going to see how many comparisons I can make to other pieces of media, and there's plenty more too. Another one I just wrote down, Golden Sun, if you played that, because that was another turn-based RPG with just like deep world building. Again, it has that Final Fantasy feeling where you're just in this strange magical world, and like the characters all have like their own personalities, their own reasons for doing anything, and by the end of it you feel like you've really been on an adventure with them. You feel like it pulls you into the quest because everything is so strange and wondrous, and the characters speak so much truth to what's in their souls that like it's engaging. It's truly engaging. So Golden Sun was another one it reminded me of. The fascinating story, and then just the very deep team building. Like right now I'm still at the beginning, but I have one guy who like uses a mechanical arm and a revolver kind of thing, and another woman who's just like a mage. She's just constantly casting elemental magic, and then another expeditioner who is kind of like a duelist, like a French-style duelist, with like a magic sword. Everybody has magic swords. Again, it's very Final Fantasy-esque, or like I guess what I was thinking of when I compared it to BioShock is not so much the first one, but like BioShock Infinite, which is not that good of a game in my opinion, honestly. I'm not saying this is better, but like in terms of a world where it's just like this weird alternate history, and it's interesting to look around and to see the world building that goes into it. That's what I meant when I kind of compared it to BioShock, is the best of that series, like alternate history world building. Although again, I do consider this a much better game than BioShock Infinite. Yeah, I even got like Disco Elysium vibes. I can't even define that, but I'm hoping if you know the styles that I'm talking about, it's like it really is a medley of all of these. Like, and Disco Elysium, I think it was mostly the style thing where it's just kind of this somber, hand-painted almost masterpiece of a little world that you can explore. Oh, and that reminds me, so my friend alerted me, there are like a lot of like specifically mimetic references. Like my friend pointed out, there's a NPC you talk to who's on fire and he says, "This is fine," like, like the meme. I'm okay with the events that are occurring. So I'm pretty sure that was intentional, and if you could go either way with that one, like, oh, maybe that's not intentional, but you'll eventually meet a little guy who is he's basically called like 1-inch punch man. So that's definitely, and his whole thing is that he has, or at least he claims to have these mighty punches that can destroy anything. So that's definitely a reference. These guys definitely know their anime, know the media that, that they put this game into. And it really shows, I would say that this team is a group of people who really love the art, the craft of good modern media. So yeah, don't use my combat for a reference because the combat is so subtle and detailed and so many things you can do that like I didn't figure it out while I was taking this footage. So don't use mine as an indicator, but it is really subtle and complex. And the character designs, that's another thing from where I would compare it to like good Final Fantasy or good even Metal Gear, where like the villains and even some of your friends, or Elden Ring, or like, FromSoft, where like the designs are so strange and sometimes monstrous that like and sometimes whimsical too, so it really is going to leave an impression on you. I found more of my like games that I feel like this reminds me of. I walked into there's an area called the Manor, where it is like, it's like a French mansion, old school mansion. And when I walked in, I was like, this reminds me of Persona. Like, where it's these characters who are like in a reality, they're in a real grounded reality with like real stakes, but everything is so dreamlike all the time. You know what? I think that's all I have, honestly. I am loving it. If you like turn-based RPG, this is a must play. If you like good original storytelling and really cool design, this is a must play. If you don't like either of those, honestly, I think you're probably going to end up playing this, by the end of the year, because I think that the swell of enthusiasm as more and more people realize how unique and excellent this is. It feels like what happened with Baldur's Gate however many years ago, like 1 year or 2 years ago. Time flies, I'm already forgetting exactly when that came out. But like where It came out of nowhere, and everybody is really loving it. But honestly, I played all of Baldur's Gate, and I would say that this E33 is much more engaging. I'm enjoying it out of the box way more than Baldur's Gate, just right from the get-go. It is more instantly likable even than that. So, like, you got to check this one out, in my opinion. And yeah, that's all I got for today. If you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe, comment. That all really helps my growing, fledgling channel. So thank you very much for joining me this weekend, and I will catch everybody in the next one.